Hello, welcome to my Week 6 Interactive Journal. The first thing we are going to talk about this week is the Van Hiles level of geometric thinking from our reading. There are 5 levels of his geometric thinking. The first one is level 0, visualization. Students use visual perception and nonverbal thinking to recognize geometric figures by their shape as a whole. An example of what this might look like is if a student could see a stop sign and identify that that shape looks like a stop sign, or maybe that shape looks like a door. Basically, the student is able to distinguish that a shape is similar to a shape in their everyday life. In Level 1 analysis, students analyze and name properties of geometric shapes. They cannot yet recognize relationships between properties. At Level 2 abstraction, students perceive relationships between properties and figures. They create meaningful definitions, justify reasoning, and can draw maps and diagrams. At Level 3 deduction, students can give deductive geometric proofs. They can distinguish between necessary and sufficient conditions. The final level is Level 4, which is rigor. Students understand how mathematic systems are established. They are able to use all types of proofs and understand axioms of a geometric condition. So there are 2 activities that I've provided. These activities are to master Level 3 when students are looking at deductive reasoning. The first activity that I chose was an activity that will help students recognize how they will utilize deductive reasoning outside of the classroom. A lot of times students cannot understand how math is useful to them, how it will be applied outside of the classroom. I think that this lesson is a great way to help them have a little fun with math and see its use in their everyday life. The first thing students will do to begin is write a fact about themselves on a slip of paper. The teacher will then collect these slips of paper and read each fact aloud to class. Students will then ask each other yes or no questions. Then they will make notes of answers on the fact sheet. The students need to be strategic in their questioning in order to narrow down the students in order to match the fact to the correct students. At the end of the lesson, students will see that deductive reasoning can actually be a lot of fun. The second activity is a little different. Students are given situations to read over. There's a list of them and at the reference provided below. They must decide if it is an example of inductive or deductive reasoning. Students then create a T-chart and cut out these examples that they have been provided, and then they will glue the examples under the correct column. So this week we watched a video on how to measure length. It was an introduction to non-standard units of measurement. The first question is, how does the use of non-standard units engage students in learning the importance of accuracy and precision? I believe that it helps students to understand the concepts of length and measurement. Reading skills can be very challenging for students, so it's important for them to gain familiarity with non-standard units before moving on to standard units. The creativity of using various tools and non-standard units allows students to think about precise and accurate measurements when they consider certain terms such as shorter versus longer. It's less of a daunting task. Students begin to understand that their units that they use to measure can affect the accuracy and precision of their measurements. So how might you use non-standard measurements to scaffold instruction for English language learners or students who are more than one grade level behind academically? Well, I think the best way to approach this is to provide visualization for these students. I would provide a chart to show students the correct way to measure. Sometimes they need a little extra support. This will provide these learners with the extra support they need to make those connections. Sometimes they might not understand your explanation and could benefit from seeing an image to help guide them. And in the next slide, I provided a couple examples of some charts that I thought would be great for English language learners and those students that need some extra support with their measurements. It shows certain things like overlaps versus no overlaps, so they make sure that the material that they're using to measure are properly lined up, that there's no gaps, and that they're not using different sizes with their units, that they're even. They can kind of go down the checklist and make sure that they're doing it the right way. It's very helpful for students to have that visualization for extra support. And that will conclude my week 6 interactive journal. Thank you so much for listening.